It's like, this is the fairy tale. We're the ones that are coming back. This is what they've been waiting for. Not a perfect parent. Presence. You now are the one who can attune and listen. You are the one who will never leave. You are the one who protects now. You are the one who loves without conditions. Learning to manage and tolerate your feelings in non-harmful, purpose-driven ways is how you build self-trust and change your fucking life. The more you trust yourself, the less your inner child or teen has to grab the wheel because they finally know someone safe is driving. You are that safe one now. You are that loving parent. Welcome to Grow with Robin Breckenridge, a podcast about stepping into the most fully expressed, aligned, and conscious version of yourself. Here, we dive into the real work of personal growth, establishing boundaries, understanding your patterns, building self-trust, healing emotional wounds, and creating relationships that feel safe, authentic, and fulfilling. I'm Robin, a life and relationship coach, and in each episode, we'll explore the tools, insights, and conversations that will help you not just improve your life and relationships, but truly transform them. You don't have to just go through it. Let's grow through it, and let's do it together. Hi, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm just going to extend a bit of gratitude to everyone. There was no podcast episode last week because I had the flu and it sucked, and nobody wanted to hear what was going on in my upper respiratory system. So took a week, got some rest, starting to feel on the mend, but great reminder to take the extra vitamin, drink some OJ and some vitamin C, and just stay as healthy as you can, because that influenza B is for the birds, I'll tell you. But let's just take a moment to arrive here together right now. So wherever you are, driving, walking, sitting, just pause for a quick breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And let your awareness settle into your body. Let your energy come home, because your inner child lives in your body. And this space is for you, and you are here for a reason. Every single one of us has a younger part inside that needed more than we got. You don't even need to identify with having a bad childhood. No single person can meet every human need of another. Maybe you needed more softness, more understanding, more safety, more emotional attunement, more space to just be. And when those needs weren't met, that little part of us didn't just disappear as we grew up. It remained inside of you, stunted and waiting. It became an essence, a pulse, or an energy inside of you, still experiencing everything you do. And that part can perk up when that familiar ache of rejection hits. It can panic when someone pulls away. It can feel the guilt when we rest, when we have a need, or when we're just simply human. Sometimes we even grab the baton in the relay race and keep doing to ourselves what was done to us when we were small. Maybe we pressure ourselves, we criticize, neglect. Maybe we don't protect ourselves, or we emotionally abandon ourselves. And that part of self becomes the voice that whispers, I have to figure this out alone. But that little one is still in there, waiting, not for a parent to come back or for your parent to get healthier, although that would be amazing if it happened. It's not for the world to finally get it right, but for you, the conscious, grounded, compassionate adult version of you to come find them, hold them, and finally say, I see you now. I know what you've been through, and I'm here to take care of you. That's what reparenting really is. It's the sacred work of becoming the safe, loving parent your younger self always needed. And that's what we're going to explore today on this episode through 4 core ways of showing up for yourself. Nurture, connect, protect, empower. And those aren't just words. They're practices that rebuild trust inside your nervous system. The way we heal and rebuild relationship with the part we tried to hide or exile a long time ago. And I know that that was true for me. I thought, man, I got to get rid of this like needy inner child and angry teenager to really be able to have the life I want. When the truth is, I didn't need to get rid of them. I needed to learn how to integrate them. I needed to learn how to reparent them. So a lot of us learn to survive, not to feel safe. We learn to scan, to please, to perform, or to shut down, whatever helped us get through. We became experts at managing other people's emotions while abandoning our own. So when you begin this work, when you start to nurture or comfort yourself, it might feel weird, uncomfortable, indulgent, or even unsafe because your body has only known love with conditions, especially self-love with conditions. It has only known safety through control. That's why repair takes time. Your inner child doesn't just need comfort. They need to trust that comfort won't disappear. Remember, consistency is the main ingredient in trust. So, reminder, trust is data over time, even when we're building it with ourselves. This isn't just self-care. This is sacred repair. It's learning to manage and tolerate your feelings in ways that don't harm you and others. When pain shows up, you can get curious. When fear rises, you can pause and take a deep breath. When shame whispers, you can speak gently back to it. Remember, you can't fast forward through healing. You can't logic your way out of loneliness. You can't think yourself out of fear. You have to feel it and attune to it. You have to hold non-judgmental space for it. You have to be with it differently. And you can, one action at a time. But before we move through the 4 practices, I want to begin with emotional attunement because you can't nurture, connect, protect, or empower what you're not attuned to. Emotional attunement means you can stop judging what you feel and start listening to it. It's curiosity over criticism. When a child cries, an attuned parent does not say, stop being dramatic, or you're fine. They soften and say, hey, I can see you're scared right now. I'm here with you and I'm not going anywhere. That really hurt, didn't it? It makes sense that you feel this way. And this reminds me of one of the first experiences I had with emotional attunement as a parent. I remember it was far easier to attune to my son when he was little, because it just is, right? They're just these little innocent, cute things. As my son got older, I noticed that it was oftentimes easier to be reactive. And I remember a specific time when he was probably around 8 and it was time to get off his favorite video game. My son has loved video games his whole life. And it was time to get off the video game and, wrap up for the night. And I remember telling him and him getting really frustrated and upset. And of course, there was this reactive part of me that was like, okay, get off the game. Who cares? Right. But this other part came up in me and it attuned. I just said, wow, it must be really hard to get off a video game when you're 8 years old and that's what you want to do. Now, I know that conscious parenting, it gets a bad rap. Like I've seen a lot of things on social media where it sounds like weak parenting. So I just want to tell everybody that that's not where the conversation stopped. It wasn't just emotional attunement. It was followed with a boundary. Must be hard to get off that game. It must be frustrating when you're 8 years old and you need to get off a game and you don't want to. And we're going to get off the game and we're going to wrap up our night. So as you can see, that wasn't just attuning to the child's feeling and allowing the feeling to dictate how I parent, but it was attuning with the child's feeling that the truth is, whether I like it or not, he was frustrated. And I'd much rather take that opportunity to one, attune to that frustration, and two, help him model it than the alternative, which is to become authoritative and completely breeze over the fact that there's an emotional experience going on with my child. And I've said it on the podcast before, my most simplified kind of roadmap for parenting is that it's my job to keep my child emotionally and physically safe. So to bulldoze through his emotions doesn't really feel aligned with that particular goal. Another example is my son came back and was frustrated with a teacher that he had. And I acknowledged how frustrating it must be to spend 6 hours a day with someone that you don't like. Because guess what? If I'm an adult and I am not allowed to like people because I'm human, so is a 10-year-old kid. And arguing that is just arguing with reality. 10-year-olds don't like people. I don't like people. And when he told me that situation about not liking his teacher, I used to be a teacher. And to be quite honest, I had a lot going on at the time. I didn't need my son to not like his teacher. That was going to be a whole nother complication. But I attuned because it is difficult to not like your teacher and be stuck in that class for 6 hours a day. And where we were in the year, I just said, hey, I don't think the best option is that we pull you out of the class. What if I helped you learn how to be in relationship with someone you don't really care for, and how to advocate for yourself and how to stay respectful? Because that's going to happen to you over and over and over again in your life. Now, of course, I could have handled that differently. I could have said, your teacher is fine. It's you. It's not him or her or whatever it was. But he was frustrated. He didn't like his teacher. And if I responded that way, I would have left him alone in that to figure it out as a 10-year-old. And if you guys are listening to this podcast, emotions are hard for grown adults to figure out and manage, let alone being a child. So those are a couple examples of how I was able to attune to my child's emotion. And again, not let the emotion dictate my parenting. But I'll tell you what, you guys, the reason why I could emotionally attune to my son, the reason why I can emotionally attune to my clients is because I figured out a way to emotionally attune to myself and to the younger parts of me. When you feel activated, anxious, frozen, angry, the best possible thing we can do is pause and get curious. What could be the feeling underneath this particular reaction I'm having? And what need could be underneath that feeling? Like in my son's particular case, he was frustrated. And the need underneath was he just maybe needed to express it and be able to be an autonomous person in my relationship with him in this home and say, hey, if I had it my way, I would still be playing this game. Okay. In the example of him not liking his teacher, my assumption is that what he was trying to communicate to me was frustration and overwhelm. And when I was able to pick that up, I was able to go, hey, you're 10. You don't have to do this on your own. I can help you. And in fact, you have a mom that helps a lot of people do this particular thing. We got this. I remember a specific time in my own life going, okay, I'm screwed. Whatever was going on, it just felt bigger than me. And then I had this epiphany. Oh my gosh, people pay me for my advice. which means I probably have some good advice somewhere inside of me. I just have to find it and connect to it. So as adults, we can do this for ourselves now. That pause, that breath, it's where repair begins. It's where we stop repeating the same reactions, the same patterning. So just like the examples of my son, I just want to remind you, when we're talking about reparenting our parts of self, when we're talking about applying conscious repairs to the same old patterning, that doesn't mean you're here to change who you are. You're just here to change how you respond to who you are. Instead of repeating old patterns, shutting down, over-explaining, disappearing, you can choose a new action that isn't harmful. You can choose nurture, connection, protection, and empowerment. Each time you do, you write a new story for your nervous system. So let's start with nurture. Nurture is the energy of warmth, slow breaths, gentle words, small comforts that whisper in your body. You are safe to be who you are. You are safe to be where you are. I think that it is an extremely common occurrence that we don't want to be emotionally where we are. We'll try bargaining with that. Your options are feel it, suppress it, express it. You got two options on that one, repress or express. And I could probably have a million guests on here, including anybody listening right now, that can tell you what kind of effective strategy it is to repress your emotions. Typically doesn't go very well. So some inner child repairs, meaning that when you are activated, instead of managing that same challenging feeling with a response that you know is harmful to you or others, it might look like taking a warm bath, a blanket around your shoulders, cooking yourself a real nutritious or comforting meal, resting without guilting yourself, calling someone in your trust category if you need support, slipping into soft socks or slippers. If comfort feels foreign, that's all right. Remember, it's okay to be new. Your body is learning what unconditional care feels like. Every time you practice nurturing yourself, you teach your nervous system that love doesn't have to hurt. Nurture is the opposite of neglect. It's the beginning of repair. Now, one of my favorite stories that I share with my clients was a story that my friend told me one time, and it just happened to be at a time when I was learning how to nurture my own inner child. And she had a daughter of her own and was divorced from that child's father. And it just so happened to be the dad's parenting time. So her daughter was at her dad's house, and her daughter was, an adolescent girl and got her period and was at her dad's house as an only child. And she called her mom, oh my gosh, I got my period for the first time. I don't really know what to do. I'm at dad's. And my friend said to her, tell dad I'm going to come get you. They had an amicable co-parenting relationship. And she said, I'm going to make you a cozy spot on the couch. I'm going to get all your favorite drinks. I'm going to get you a heating pad. I'm going to put on your favorite movie. Come to my house and let me take care of you. And that's such a simple story, but I was like, oh, that's what we do. I think that as a coping mechanism, I started moving so fast in the world. And although by my horoscope sign is a Cancer, which means we're nurturing by nature, I didn't really slow down to nurture me. And my friend's example of her taking care of her own child, physical child, but to say let me take care of you, was such a healing and nurturing approach that story resonates in my mind when I'm like, oh, I think I need to take care of myself, what a beautiful week for me to do this particular episode, because I think when we're sick, it's just when our inner child comes out. And I was so impressed with how I nurtured myself, just like my example of my friend. I mean, I woke up every day and was like, got the cozy slippers and the cozy robe. And I took more time off last week from work than I think I have ever when I've been sick. One, I make a promise to myself that I owe my clients 100%. So if I'm not 100%, you're not going to see me in session. Two, I needed to rest and recover. It was impacting my voice. I knew the more that I pushed myself, the more I was prolonging this healing. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself this week because I actually nurtured my inner child pretty well while I was sick. So let's talk about connection. Connection rebuilds relationship with the part of you that's been waiting, sometimes for decades, to be seen. And when you connect, you're not distracting from the feeling. You're moving with it. You might go for a walk and imagine your little one walking beside you. Maybe you have a dance party in your kitchen. Journal with your non-dominant hand. And that's a shout out to Michelle Peters from her episode where, if you'd like some good examples, she gave great ones of how she connects and nurtures and protects her own inner child. You could paint, sing, or listen to music, something that moves your heart, maybe something that you liked when you were a child. You could put on your favorite childhood movies. Maybe that's Disney. Maybe that's something else. I don't really know. I guess I watched some Disney, although I had older siblings. So I feel like my inner child movies are like John Hughes movies from the 80s. So again, totally up to you. But I have to stop and tell a story about the painting piece because I have a picture right over there in my bookshelf of something that I painted when I was crawling out of my skin. And it seemed like the next least harmful choice and a way to connect with my inner child. But I had a client one time, and that client and I had been through a lot together. And that particular client had to stop doing some pretty destructive things in order to heal and in order to create and live the life that this client wanted. And we were sitting in my office because this was an in-person client. So I remember it just like it was yesterday. And we were like, what are we going to do with this energy that this client was using for more self-destructive things? And I suggested, did you like to paint when you were a kid? What did you like to do? And he said, well, he always wanted to paint, but it just was never something that he connected to. And because I used to be a kindergarten teacher, I do know some Michael's, the craft store hacks. And so I was like, listen, Michael's always got like a 2-for-1 canvas special. Go down there, get yourself a couple of canvases, go try painting, connect with your inner child, do the thing you always wanted to do, and come back next week. Let me know how it goes. So comes back and he's like, all right, painting went great. I loved it. I got these supplies. I went to Michael's. I was like, oh, that's so great. And he's like, but now I have another problem. All I want to do is paint. I don't want to go to work. I just want to sit in my place and paint and express myself. And I was like, okay, wow, we're going to find the middle there other than the extreme. We're going to parent that part. That part gets to paint after work or on the weekends, but we're going to go to work and we're going to fulfill our responsibilities. But we're also going to use this as a means to connect to your inner child. So fast forward, this client starts painting and showed me some of his work. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is really good. Like my painting was not that good, but whatever. He did an amazing job. And I told him, I said, hey, if you ever end up selling these, like, can I be the first person to buy one of your paintings? And I think he was flattered by that. But, this was something that he was doing as a hobby. Well, fast forward, just recently, I went to that client's art gallery opening where an art gallery hosted this client and his work. And I bought a piece of his art. So as silly as some of these things can seem, because they can, and I remember learning it myself, being like, okay, sure. You never know what can open up when we connect back to that part of us that truly houses our creativity, which is your inner child. So a great thing to consider when you are creating new ways of managing your feelings that can connect you to your parts of self or your inner child is to think back to, what did you like to do then? Or what did you always want to do? For me, I played piano, or, well, that's kind of an exaggeration. I took piano lessons as a kid from the lady down the street, and I hated every minute of it. And now I think I would look at piano differently. And I have every intention to start some piano lessons here in the near future. So it could be something that maybe you didn't like when you were a kid, but maybe you would enjoy now, something that you loved doing when you were little, or that you never had the availability to do, but maybe now we could create some space for you to try it. So connection can sound like, hey, sweetheart, I can feel you're scared. I'm right here. You don't have to do this alone. So instead of being worried or trying to control it, what if we painted a picture? What if we went for a hike together? What if I took you on a bike ride? When your inner child finally feels your consistent presence, they can learn that they no longer have to perform for love or do it on their own. Now let's talk about protection. Protection is love with limits. It says, I will keep you emotionally and physically safe. Remember what I said? My North Star in parenting has been like, what is my job? Because it just feels like it's a million different things that I'm never going to do right. When I said, oh, my job is to keep my son emotionally and physically safe, that was doable. So remember, parenting an external child, the same approach applies to parenting your parts of self. So many of us did not receive the proper protection that we needed growing up. And it's why we're learning boundaries as adults. So keeping yourself safe or protecting yourself, I mean, listen, we just did a bunch of episodes about boundaries. You guys learned the boundary pyramid. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. The easiest way that we can protect ourselves is to have limits, which is boundaries. So sometimes that means that we would have boundaries with other people. Like personally, I will not take my inner child around anyone who is rageful, violent, or mean. Like I don't ever want to do that again. But sometimes, and oftentimes, it means having boundaries with yourself and your own reactions and responses. Because sometimes the threat, it isn't outside. It's how we treat ourselves when we are hurting, when we are activated. So when you're scared, instead of trying to control everything, maybe you can surrender. Remember, that means giving over, not giving up what you can't control, and looking at what and where you actually do have any control or empowerment. When you're angry, you could use it to motivate you. The positive form of anger is that it's the most motivating energy on the planet. So maybe instead of raging or stuffing it down or calling up somebody and just bitching, maybe you could set a boundary. Maybe you could let the anger motivate you to have the hard conversation. Remember, once the anger has passed, if your anger is really activated, it's not the time to repair and it's not the time to have the conversation. Maybe when you're lonely, you could be with yourself or your inner child. Maybe you could call someone safe. Maybe you could practice some self-care and take care of yourself while that feeling is up, instead of reaching for the destructive quick fix. Protection says, I won't abandon you when you're hurting, but I also won't let you hurt yourself. And it also says, I won't let others hurt you. Now let's talk about empowerment. Empowerment happens when your inner child realizes that they are no longer helpless because they have you. Now remember, the wounded part of us will never be more conscious than they were then. But now they have you and your conscious adult on board. So it is very, very, very common that when we stir up things from our childhood or revisit some of the things that we didn't get or the things that happened to us, we can stay in a victimized energy. Now, it does not mean you weren't a victim. Listen, so many people who are listening right now were victimized growing up. But if you stay in the energy of victim, you will suffer. So victim to me means disempowered. You did not come here to stay disempowered. You didn't come to this podcast to stay disempowered. So it doesn't mean that we empower that little girl or that teenager in us to have more awareness and consciousness than they did at the time. You come and bring empowered solutions. Okay, so great example is someone is being disrespectful to me. Guess what? If we just stay in that, you're a victim and you'll suffer. And you have a choice. But we have this other choice now. And the choice is, hey, I could have a boundary. And remember, that could be an external boundary. That could be an internal boundary. It could be, excuse me, Dad, the way you're speaking to me, that doesn't work with me anymore. So either I'm going to ask you to change your tone or I'm going to leave. Or it could sound like as soon as my dad cracks open that second beer, I'm out of here. And you don't even have to have anything come out of your mouth. That is how resourceful we can be. There are limitless ways that we can find our power. So empowerment sounds like the conscious part of you talking to your inner child. It might sound like, hey, we've done hard things before. We can do this too. Hey, you know what? I can help you make a new choice. I can lead. I've got this. We'll figure it out together. Or I'll tell you my mantra to my inner child that Josh mentioned in his episode when he was on the podcast. I'm going to help you figure this out. And if I can't, I'm going to find someone who can. Or it could simply just be, hey, I hear you. That's really hard. But guess what? We have boundaries now. Doing it differently is looking for the next empowered choice. It's keeping promises to yourself. It's choosing alignment over approval. Every empowered action, it rewires your brain and it puts safety in your nervous system. And it teaches your system that safety isn't necessarily the absence of fear. It's the presence of self-trust. When you nurture, connect, protect, and empower your inner child, you become the conscious relational parent that you always needed. The part of you that can listen, attune, comfort, and lead. The one who can say, I see you. I see that you're hurting. I care how you feel. I care about your well-being. And I know what to do now. Now you might be going, but Robin, I don't know what to do now. If you guys remember, I told you a story about how I went to a very expensive place to help learn and grow and love yourself and let go of patterns. And we did this beautiful meditation at the end where you went and found your inner child and said, don't worry, I'm here for you. I'm going to help you. And my inner child looked at me and said, oh, no, not you. And I went, just another thing that I'm messing up here because my inner child doesn't even want me to help her, doesn't trust me. And the truth is that that was too big of an ask. I didn't have enough data over time. Okay. Like a long time later, I can tell you that my inner child trusts my conscious adult probably more than anything or anyone else on the planet. And to bring it all the way back to the boundary pyramid, remember, we want to get in our own trust category for us. Often the universe will kind of part the seas and have us build a trusting relationship with ourselves to be able to kind of be the gatekeeper for that trust category and go, hey, I set a really high standard. I treat myself really well. So in order to be in my trust category, in order for me to feel safe in that relationship, they got to treat you as well as you treat yourself. And I'm talking about when you get to a healthy place. And let me tell you, if I can do it, if that inner child now who turned around in that meditation and said, oh God, not you, knows that she's okay because of me, anyone can do this. And let me tell you how is you realize you lean in first. That's the first thing I did. I amended what I said to that little girl in that meditation. I said, you're right. I have failed you a lot over and over again, but I'm going to dust myself off and get up and keep trying till I get it right. And she turned around in the meditation and she took my hand. And man, have we been on a beautiful journey since then. So this is what your inner child has been waiting for. This is what I tell my clients when we first start this work, digging into remembering the challenging feelings and the way that you managed your feelings. And I always say, don't worry, we're coming back for that little kid. And honestly, I don't know if there's ever been a time that I've said that I didn't feel like weeping when I said it. It's like, this is the fairy tale. We're the ones that are coming back. This is what they've been waiting for. Not a perfect parent. Presence. You now are the one who can attune and listen. You are the one who will never leave. You are the one who protects now. You are the one who loves without conditions. Learning to manage and tolerate your feelings in non-harmful, purpose-driven ways is how you build self-trust and change your fucking life. The more you trust yourself, the less your inner child or teen has to grab the wheel because they finally know someone safe is driving. You are that safe one now. You are that loving parent. So before we close, I'm always going to give you guys an invitation when I can. Take a moment to look back at some of the things that we talked about and wrote down in previous episodes. Remember, we talked about writing down a challenging feeling that you felt in each part of self. What action did you take when you remember feeling that feeling? And then we tried to high level it from some of the patterns that I had listed out in the previous episodes. Now, I want you to add something onto that list. I want you to add one new reparative action. So I want you to think about, okay, when I feel shame, what would I typically do? I would beat myself up. What is that pattern? That pattern is self-abandonment. We already know self-abandonment is not going to help you grow anything other than more shame. So if we now can pause and we can bring some logic online, we could go, all right, because right now, I'm not sure where everybody is that's listening, but right now you might not be activated in that specific feeling. We could say anything other than self-abandonment would be the next least harmful choice. So maybe it's calling someone who you know believes in you and won't let you beat yourself up. Maybe it's trying your very best to shift a kind talk, self-talk. Maybe it's grabbing that blanket and watching a movie. Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's listening to a meditation. Maybe it's finding a cozy spot on the couch and just taking care of that part of self. Anything other than self-abandonment. So I want you to go back to your list and remember, we just took one feeling, one action, one pattern. You guys can do more. It's totally up to you. You're welcome to take this to a professional place of support and go, hey, I learned this on a podcast. I'd like to dive in more if that's something that you, if you do in their particular modality. But I want you to write down an action you can take that is different and that is less harmful or non-harmful that you could do the next time that particular challenging feeling shows up. So some examples might be maybe when anxiety hits, instead of overthinking and spiraling into repetitive thinking, you can place your hand on your heart and whisper, I've got you. Whisper a mantra. Maybe when sadness comes in, you could light a candle, turn on some music, let yourself be held, journal. One of my favorite things to do with anger is something that I had learned from Gabby Bernstein, and it's called Rage on the Page. And what you do is you take a timer and you just let it rip and you say all the things that your anger wants to say, and you give it some parameters around it. And when that timer goes off, you need to switch up that energy, go to CVS, go to Target, go do your thing. And you would have at least let the anger out versus bottling it up. Now, if you're someone who tends to explode, Rage on the Page might, make it worse. So maybe it's going to a kickboxing class. Maybe it's screaming in a pillow or screaming in a car. I mean, you guys, there are literally limitless amount of things that you could do. The only thing that this particular part of this work requires is creativity. And again, you're not in this alone. You can bring this to a place of professional support. You can DM me, you can email me. I'm happy to get in the mix of suggesting some examples, but you guys got some examples in this. We've talked in lots of client episodes where you might be able to pull a couple things that some clients have brought up as examples. But small reparative actions teach your nervous system safety through repetition. And it finally lets us know that we can have a challenging emotion in our body and not have to leave our body, because that's what we do. We have challenging feelings. We'll leave our body. We'll go up into our head, or we'll get into our actions. And typically your head is not a safe place to kick around on your own. And your actions will tend to take you outside of your integrity, thus growing more of the very feelings that we don't want: self-doubt, shame, not good enough, guilt, etc. So repeat after me if it feels right in your body. I am the safe, loving parent my younger self always needed. I can feel what I feel and still choose safety. I can self-lead with nurture, connection, protection, and empowerment. Next week, we'll continue this work and learn reparative actions for your inner teenager, the one who may have learned to protect through rebellion, control, shutting down, and resistance. We'll explore how to meet that fire with guidance, compassion, and self-leadership. Because healing isn't about erasing any part of you. It's about creating a safe home in your body now. Guess what, guys? That's the fairy tale. That's the prince on the white horse some of us have been waiting for. It's you, the conscious you, the one with agency and awareness, the one who cares how that kid inside of you feels and cares enough to provide them a new, energetic home. One free of what you endured physically, emotionally, mentally, and energetically when they were young. Nope. One free of what they might have endured physically, emotionally, mentally, and energetically growing up. That's kind of like moving around the furniture. Go make the space your own. But not you veiled by defenses and wounding, but the you that has always, always been more powerful than all of this. So I'll see you next week, friends. Go take great care of your inner child this week. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you soon. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this work. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come connect with me over on TikTok at Robin Breckenridge or Instagram at Coach with Robin, where I share even more insights, tools, and conversations around boundaries, self-trust, relational healing, and so much more. And just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational and personal growth purposes only. The insights and tools I share are based on my experience as a life and relationship coach and are meant for general guidance. Each person's story is unique, and the nuances of individual experiences can't always be addressed in this format. What's shared here may not be applicable to every situation, especially those involving abuse, oppression, severe mental illness, or systematic harm. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional or emergency resources. Thank you for listening and for showing up for yourself in this way. Take care, and I'll see you next time.